Alright, so I want to touch on one quick little topic, follow-up from my video yesterday regarding leg curls and the physio ball and a foam roller, where you add some adduction. Today I want to touch on rollouts, like you would use a physio ball or an ab wheel for. You can use a barbell as well. This one works especially well with a physio ball, where your hands are a little bit higher up off the ground than an ab wheel. But with this variation, specifically what you're doing is you're going to add the foam roller in between the knees, squeeze, and then proceed to complete your rollouts. One thing that I found, and that I've also noticed working with a lot of my athletes, is that when they did the rollouts, if I were to specifically cue them, and Eric Cressy has a good video on this in which he discusses to lead the rollout with the hips, so pushing the hips forward and specifically using those to engage the movement, versus a lot of people just think to push with the hands. Well, what I found in that case is that when you begin to cue a lot of glute activation or posterior tilt before the movement itself, sometimes that helps to put people back into neutral, but for those that were already in neutral, you can actually take them out of position to end range, opposite end of the spectrum, posteriorly. So what the foam roller does is it helps to give that client more of a cue to activate the adductors. Now, you can talk about this from a couple of different ways. You can go the PRI lens and look at things through that lens, where they discuss the role of the adductors and how activation of those can subsequently influence these specific chains within the body and help to open up, we'll say, 3 dimensions of movement. So not just simply sagittal plane, but also frontal and transverse plane. You can also look at it through the Thomas Myers lens, and he wrote a book called Anatomy Trains, and in that book he lays out these sort of fascial trains within the body. And so one of the trains that's specifically noted for the adductors is the deep front line, and what the deep front line connects is basically everything from your toes all the way up to the base of your skull, and the adductors are then intrinsically linked, through Myers terminology at least, intrinsically linked with some of the posterior deep spinal stabilizers. So you can look at it in a variety of ways, either of those, or the other thing that you can think about is perhaps with the posterior tilt, what I'm doing is I'm taking the abdominals out of position to recruit effectively, because now I've taken myself to end range and it's much harder to brace. Similarly, if I was overly arched, it would be that much harder to brace as well. So what this can potentially do is cue you to squeeze more of the adductors versus just the glutes and generate more of an isometric contraction. If you've seen, a lot of physios will have people lay flat on their stomachs and they will actually put something in between their feet here. And then they will have folks squeeze that in between their feet. And what you'll find is that the glutes and the adductors are recruited simultaneously. So this is similar to that, but now instead of actually generating a whole lot of movement sagittally within the pelvis, now we're basically isometrically stabilizing the pelvis via the adductors and the glutes simultaneously, while then you complete the rollout. So, small little tweak, you can use a foam roller, you can use an AirX pad, you could even use a blender bottle if you wanted to. You might get some weird looks, but it gets the job done. So, try it out with your rollouts the next time you hit them, and let me know how it goes.